Hey guys, I'm Shamar Webb.
I'm Zoe Payton.
Farron Coleman.
Marcus Funches. I'm Joshua Bryant. And we're back. How's everybody doing? Welcome back to another episode of Blueprint. So in today's episode, I want you guys to imagine the candidate walks into an interview. They're struggling to maintain eye contact, they're losing their train of thought, and they leave convinced that they failed the interview. But that same candidate in the right environment could outperform anybody on their team. So that leads us in today's topic, mental disorder within the workplace.
Since the pandemic, adults have been diagnosed with ADHD. It has surged over 40%. Remote work didn't create ADHD, but it exposed it in the workplace. Employees who was once struggling with getting focused and the structure and expectations of the organization, it all just failed, and most organizations were not ready for such, disorders. But one company decided to flip that model. At Microsoft, leaders recognized that traditional hiring, fast-paced interviews, vague questions, high social pressure wasn't measuring ability, and they redesigned the process. They introduced structured, task-based assessments. They allowed candidates to demonstrate skills in real-work scenarios, and they paired new hires with mentorship from day one. The result, they didn't just create a more inclusive system, they unlocked a high-performing talent pool. And that's why this matters today. This isn't just about accommodation, it's about competitive advantage. Because in a world where innovation drives success, the companies learn to work with different minds. The ones that will outperform the ones that don't. As well as, how do you guys feel about ADHD in the workplace?
ADHD in the workplace, it's something new for real. Like back in the days, they never did studies on ADHD, in the workplace or mental disorders in the workplace. This is all something new for us. So, looking at ADHD in the workplace and looking at how these stress factors and how the way that the work inside the workplace is, curated.
Actually, and mental disorders have always been here. You can see it in your grandparents, like especially in mine, I can definitely see it there, where they have collections of certain things. It's just like certain tics that people have,
Right.
and considering the fact that people have just start getting diagnosed with it, as in like Gen X, I think that's when they started going to therapy. If I might be correct or maybe not, I don't know. But that's when you realize certain things about yourself. And now all these people are just like, well, this didn't exist all these years ago, and yes, it has. Just there hasn't been proper research done in it. And that's why these people have flopped or like haven't done as well in the past. So we have a newer generation that are willing to let these people thrive in these certain environments. And it doesn't take a lot to help include a person in that.
Yeah, I think back then it was kind of frowned upon or like not really normalized. But I think nowadays it's starting to get normalized, and like they're starting to make exceptions in the workplace and starting to realize how like just because you have mental disorder or ADHD, like it doesn't always affect how you perform in the workspace. And sometimes it might be a strength, like not a weakness.
Being able to think differently.
Yeah.
Okay. That moves us to our next topic, Josh.
Yeah. So our next topic is our theory. I'm going to connect the stress, the axis model. It suggests that some people may already have a vulnerability to mental health issues such as anxiety and depression, And workplace stress can trigger or worsen those issues. Workplaces can have heavy workload, toxic managers, sometimes bullying, long hours so people could provide for their families, burnout, and also no support. These all increase mental disorders in employees. And according to the Atlas stress model, uh, depression often develops through the interaction between personal and vulnerability and stressful life events. This means that stress alone does not always cause depression, but for someone who is already at risk, repeated stress can increase the chances of symptoms appearing. I say my theory is important. This theory is important because it shows that mental disorders in the workplace aren't just about being weak or not being able to handle pressure. It's about personal risk factors and environmental stress together. And understanding this can help workplaces create healthier environments by reducing stressors, offering mental health resources, encouraging balance, and overall building supportive leadership. When organizations focus on prevention and support, employees are more likely to stay healthy, productive, and engaged. So this all just means that ADHD and workplace mental health disorders is not just about being weak or being less than. We did talk about the point earlier of sometimes it's more of a strength than a weakness, you know? So it all connects within one another. And that's the reason why I use this model and this stress model to represent ADHD and mental health disorders in the workplace. Do you guys have any thoughts?
I agree as well that organizations should be able to be supportive of those who have any disorders, and that they should be able to, hold themselves to a certain standard and not set any rigid expectations on, like what needs to be done or anything like that. Um, must be definitely healthy environments. If it is a toxic work environment place, it would definitely cause a lot more stress on those who do have ADHD or any mental disorders in the workplace. Um, definitely be able to, just remove that unnecessary stress and be able to provide, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Provide support.
Yeah, provide support. And it's another one, man. Just be able to protect your one's overall health in the workplace, especially if it's remote and online due to, post COVID, there were still companies trying to get back into the flow of how they was doing things. But, the shutdown caused a lot of, different companies to become unstructured, and to be able to, hire different people and just be not too limited as they once was.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely agree with that. That some companies did become unstable, definitely during like COVID times, because they didn't have enough employees that could like think outside the box and think differently. And people with these mental disorders can definitely look at just a different perspective than some people do it within sometimes within reason. I would say that that's definitely a benefit to have these employees.
Yeah, and piggybacking off of what you said, even because we were in COVID, and the stress of there's this new disease that's out, that also increases mental health disorders. Nobody really knew what was going on. You know what I'm saying? We're just cooped up in the house. So getting back to work and getting back in the flow of things, that's definitely hard for people, and we could argue that, some mental health disorders came from COVID itself.
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
100%. Right.
I was gonna say, so how y'all were talking about like, I feel like training also, I was gonna talk about training, like do y'all feel like people with mental health disorders might take longer? Like would that affect training and like the weeks of training that they may need to act and stuff?
It depends on the person.
Yeah, that's most definitely
Definitely
depends on the person because like we said earlier, it, you could use it as a strength, and not a weakness. So for some individuals, their mental health disorder may be their strength. Well, on the other hand, some people's mental health disorder may be a weakness for them. So it all just depends on the individual. But I definitely do get your point. I definitely do see, where that's coming from. So, I'm glad that we're having like a sit down conversation like this so we can all, learn more. Because I definitely learned more just sitting here with y'all today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And that is a reason to concern them. Because sometimes people don't like this.
Yeah.
Like myself, it depends on the situation.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I have the next topic. And I was going to bring up certain things that other companies have done that can help other companies as well. They all have their strengths, but they all have their weaknesses as well. So just keep that in mind. So for one, I put down as more flexible hours, or just like you don't have to come into like the workplace or like the company to get from home, which was definitely adapted more so during 2020, which was a good thing that's maybe see.
I think,
Yeah. Okay. So people started working way more from home, and then people were able to like focus more on their work with that. For some people, depending on the person, it's not everyone. And also these more flexible work hours, it can just genuinely help a person plan out their day, because there are some people who absolutely need to plan every single thing that they do. I know some people like that. Me, myself, included.
Yeah.
So, the benefits are like definitely more employee satisfaction, being able to get some things out of the way, being able to do their own thing at their own time, whenever they need to do them. But some drawbacks for this is definitely some distractions that can be at home. That is 100% a problem for me personally, because when it was COVID time, I was still in high school, and I almost failed every single one of the classes that I had.
Oh, yeah.
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 Stay at home
Same.
distractions. You have to know yourself to know if you can actually do your work from home.
And I can go ahead and say about that, me, during COVID, I could not do any work at home. Like, it was very hard for me. And the reason why was because the game is in the room and I'm trying to do the work too. So I answered one or two math questions. Now I'm on Fortnite, I'm on 2K, I'm on Madden, and I'm like, I got all these assignments I gotta finish doing.
Yeah.
So, definitely understanding, your distractions and your limits. Like, looking back at it now, a person like me today, I probably would have moved my game system out of the room.
Definitely.
I would have went downstairs and done my work. Like,
Yeah.
I know we've seen a lot of TikToks or, just videos on Instagram, like people be on their Zoom calls in the bed. Like, work isn't meant to, it's hard. It was a very hard transition. I know I was definitely on Zoom calls in the bed.
Definitely.
Sorry.
No.
But piggybacking off of that, I mean, procrastination also does cause stress, which may lead to more mental disorders.
Even with the books, they was on Zoom. Even people like on the news or anything like that, they'll be on Zoom. They'll just have their long sleeve button up shirt and they'll have on no pants because they're home chilling. They don't really. They're tired just like us. Everybody's tired. Everybody don't want to be here. They're just all dressed up. Everything look good up top, but still they're just just that comfort.
Yeah, just comfort in general. The next point that I had, it was definitely something that Microsoft had done with some of their employees. They made like a group that was mainly just people who had mental disorders. So that group can do, certain projects that other people fail to do.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, because those people are able to make up something sometimes. But there's also a lack of communication, which could definitely be a problem, depending on the person, depending on the people that they are very good at. Because not every person with a mental disorder has the same mental disorder or thinks the same. Which is definitely a problem, because you can't push. It's like pushing two different people together and being like, oh, you guys should know each other because this, or you guys would get along solely because of this.
Yeah,
It's not the same.
absolutely. So do you think that's something Microsoft should try and fix? Like, I wouldn't say fix, but try and pair people similar to the service page.
I feel like that would help. Maybe it just depends on the person, to be honest, because some people can flourish in those situations while other people cannot. Yeah. And for the last one that I put up there was that there are some companies that do put up like free subscriptions for those people who have mental disorders. So like if you have anxiety or like you're prone to having stress, they give you these apps that you can use with like a free subscription, apologies. And with that, they would be able to do their work more easily without less stress, which can definitely help with employee satisfaction, can lower their stress, and, you know, just be able to get their work done. But there are some drawbacks, which is like concerns that maybe their company might be selling their information, and also security needs that could also be a huge problem.
Yeah. I agree.
But that's all that I personally have. That's it.
You know, touching back on your point of seeing if people with the same mental disorders, if we could put them, you know, in the same groups to, you know, work with each other. I do see how that would work. My only question would be, like, especially in today's society, would people feel, you know, discriminate against?
Yeah,
Due
that's
to that, because
also
of that.
about definitely 100%.
Or also, like, to steer away from just ADHD, like, what about people with, like, bipolar disorders?
Yeah.
Like, how would they be in a workspace? Or, like, how would they, like, if they were all in a group together, how would that, like, be with all the different, like, mental, emotional, like, different emotions and stuff going on with their bipolar? Is that what it is? Bipolar is a disorder?
Yeah. It's also a concern.
Yeah.
Like how people will blend in together.
Yeah.
You know, is it true like some people could have these, you know, disorders and not know about it at all until, you know?
Yeah. Like, my mother comes to mind.
Mhm.
When I was younger, I was sat down in like second grade, and they told me that I had like ADHD, and my parents were freaking out about it. And years later, I remember I brought it up to my mom, and she was like, "Yeah, and we were worried. We didn't know where you got it from." And in my head, I was like, "I literally got it from you," but like she didn't know that, so I didn't say that. But it's also in my sister. Like you can just tell sometimes. Well, other people cannot tell that they have that thing, because you could look up certain things like that people have, like, oh, you know, like people who are neurodivergent have this, and this. And then you could be like, well, I don't have any of those, or I only have one of those, and be like, well, then that's not me.
Right.
But you don't know for sure unless you actually go to get them checked out.
I also wrote down like a list of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So some of the strengths that I found with having ADHD in the workspace, it brings a lot of creativity and new ideas. They tend to think differently, which helps with problem solving in the workspace. So like what Zoe might think of, we all might not think of. Like, I guess if we were to have a problem, if we were all to work together, say like Microsoft, which is good. They're also, they tend to be very like hyper focused. They can focus deeply for a long time on like one task, and which I think that really helps with being productive, get a lot done in the workspace. And they're more willing to take more risk and try new things, which can lead to innovation. What do y'all think?
Absolutely. I say this on mine. It's not this mine's not a limitation, but definitely an advantage. Like I think you can bring something to the table, I cannot. You can bring something to the table, I can't. You know, it's just goes for everybody. You know, like it just definitely depends on, you know, being able to fit in like what you're good at. You know, finding out who has the best, you know, like aura or whatever. You know,
Right.
like, Definitely, like I'm not gonna hire you to be like if you're an engineer and you're a doctor, I'm not gonna put you guys in two different, completely areas. Like it just wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. And then some of the weaknesses, of course, staying organized, managing time, keeping track of deadlines that can all be difficult for people with like ADHD or mental disorders in your workspace. Getting distracted easily. Or also, I was thinking of like busy or noisy environments. So say like, I don't know, I guess you'll just have to kind of pick and see, like, we talked about a lot, the strengths and weaknesses, like having someone with a mental disorder in a noisy environment is seeing how they could either adapt to it or see how you could just find a way for them to find a new task or something.
Yeah.
Or things can start to get like repetitive or boring for people, or just repetitive or boring, which makes their task harder for them to complete, which can lead to procrastination. And then you could also be like forgetful and just missing small details, and which tends to make the quality of the work go down. That's what I found.
I'd say most of those things are definitely true. Coming from personal experience, typically whenever I can be hyper focused on like a certain aspect, and everything else can just fall because I'm overly focused on this one thing. Or doing the same thing does get really ignorant.
Yeah, same.
And I do miss like smaller details, or I quickly forget them. Like that. So I have to write down everything. Well, some people can't write down everything, but it just depends. But I like to write down everything that I have to do or that I need to do in a certain day that happens to be stressful for me, so that I can get the work done and actually do it in that specific order.
Yeah.
That's a good suggestion for completing homework. Because I know, like, even speaking for us being in college, like, classes and the work overload, sometimes it gets difficult to know, which one do I do first? Because this is due this day, but this requires more work and more effort than this one, but this one is due sooner than this one, So, definitely understand that point. I definitely agree.
I think also many companies are becoming more understanding of people with mental disorders. And they provide support, like we talked about the flexible hours and remote work. Also, tools to keep them organized. So those are some like opportunities that they have. We talked about the apps for scheduling. That can help them out. That just makes a big difference for them, which you might not think of like as a big difference, but for companies to start to make these changes, it really helps people out, and just grow awareness. And and I also have some threats. Some people may not fully be understanding of people with ADHD. So I would say like other employees, or even like customers might judge people with those problems. They might think they're lazy or not ready to come to work, or and they're very strict, or like might be very strict on them. But I just think you have to just be ready to understand or willing to take what comes with you.
Definitely.
I would say definitely it comes down to accommodation. And also as well, definitely being familiar and like knowing, the different mental health disorders that there may be in the workplace, like knowing everybody, should have at least training on, like if you have people with mental disorders in the workplace, you should definitely your other staff should know about, know how to be able to interact with one another, or that certain person, or be able to, not be able to provoke them or be, add any unnecessary stress to them, and just be able to, so that they can have a smooth, transition whenever they do come back into the workplace, or if they're online.
Or maybe if you're even a manager thinking about hiring someone with a mental disorder, like maybe doing your research to see like what comes with it or what this person might be better at, or just having a sit down talk about like their strengths and like seeing just to get a feel for that person to see like how you and your company and the other employees will adapt to them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also how they can help them as well. Because again, we don't want to discriminate against any group. So definitely having to sit down with them, whenever you are, thinking about hiring them, it definitely shows that you're doing that mile ahead step,
Yeah.
for your
Making them
employees.
feel more welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's all.
So in the conclusion, key takeaway from today's topic is all about rises in ADHD diagnosis after the pandemic. It didn't necessarily create a problem and expose the issue within a system that was already there. Many companies had a certain productivity style which caused issues with those who did not fit the program. But that doesn't mean they lack ability. In fact, some of them are able to bring creativity and innovation to the workplace. Performance is just not all about effort, but more so being able to be in a productive environment, right place, right time, where it's not about constant pressure or rigid expectations. And also, they'll be able to bring out the best in the workers. Different minds are not a limitation, but they are an advantage. We do have Zoe here who does have ADHD, and we're gonna let her talk a little bit about her experience in the workplace and stuff like that.
Yeah, so when I was younger, again, I was prescribed with ADHD when I was in second grade. And typically, well, in my case, I can really focus on certain things or certain tasks at hand. And it got really bad to the point where my father would have to like sit me down on a couch and then he'd be like, all right, don't move. And that was a really big struggle for me because I always had to move. I always had to do something when I could like talk about something. But that actually helped me like calm down a little bit though, where I was able to actually, be able to list things down. Because whether you like it or not, you're gonna be at fault for certain things that you can't do. So, like, if I don't do certain things on time, it's still my fault, regardless of if I have ADHD or not. So it's up to me to help adapt to those things while also companies come halfway. So if I'm able to write everything that I need to do down, I'm also able to do my job. If I can be able to focus on things a little bit more than a person, that can also help. But it just depends on the person as well. Because I'm not like every single person who's out there that has ADHD. I just happen to have like certain things that's like to people who have ADHD. I like collecting things, like earrings. I love collecting earrings. It's just a random thing. But there are also other things that I cannot stand doing, which is organizing. I hate organizing so much because I can't do it. But if things aren't put in a way that I like, I have to dismantle it and then put it together in a different way entirely. It depends on the person, to be honest. And I also grew up with like having these multiple distractions happening at the same time, where I cannot focus on one thing. I have to look around and look at other things. But that also isn't really helpful during tests, because when I'm taking a test or an exam, especially in like a place where there are other people there, I'm focusing on other people. Like they're just like what they're doing. Like if they're tapping while they're waiting to answer the next question, if somebody coughs, if somebody's moving around, I can't help but focus on those people around me apart from what I'm supposed to do. So thankfully, there's like separate testing that I can take, where it's like a quieter room where I can just focus on my work entirely. But
Have you ever experienced any like good or bad like at what's the word, like interactions at work or at school?
I have to say, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a thing that I have had. Like, there have been people who've called me lazy or like being insensitive while saying it's really not that hard to concentrate. All you gotta do is just focus. Like, oh wow, I didn't know that all I had to do was.
Yeah, that's kind of why I said it's good for a manager to know their employees.
Yeah, definitely. It's good for people to know, like, the people that they're around. Like, it's good for managers to know their employees. It's good for coworkers to know who that person is, if there's certain takes or whatever. Just,
Yeah.
it helps me feel more accepted into a space.
That's nice. That's wonderful. That was a great, beautiful, Joey.
I'm definitely glad that you shared your story with us, and you're able to educate us on, the mental disorders that we discussed today. It's really cool that, it's really cool being to work with someone, that has these experiences, so we're able to see firsthand, and, yeah, I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
Well, guys, that's all that we have today. Without the Mud podcast. And, I'm Shamar Webb.
I'm Zoe Payton.
I'm Baron Coleman.
I'm Marcus Funches.
I'm Joshua Bryant.
And we're the Blueprint. Thank you for your time today. Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
See y'all next week.
See you guys next week.